Floyd Mayweather Jr. is estimated to have earned over $1.1 billion. Michael Jordan earned, adjusting to inflation, a total of $2.6 billion. Tiger Woods, $2.1 billion. Cristiano Ronaldo, over $1 billion. Lionel Messi, over $1 billion. They are all athletes who have received an ungodly amount of money, measured in actual billions. Assuming they manage their wealth, which is actually a lot to ask for an athlete, they're billionaires. When it comes to their earnings, however, they seemingly pale in comparison to a Roman charioteer from the 2nd century AD. Sports are not new. The Olympic Games began in ancient Greece, and Rome also had its fair share of popular sports. The one sport you'd likely think of when ancient Rome pops in your head would be gladiator fights. After all, the Colosseum is one of the most identifiable buildings in Rome today. However, it was not the most impressive sports venue of its day. While it could host more than 50,000 spectators, an impressive amount in its own right, the Circus Maximum at its height had a seating capacity of over 250,000. Why do I bring up the Circus Maximus? Because that's where the most popular sport in Rome was performed. While the gladiator fights of the Colosseum were very popular, it was the chariot racing of the Circus Maximus that was the football of the days of the Roman Empire. The king of the charioteers was Gaius Appuleius Diocles. Born in Lamecum in the province of Lusitanian, that is, modern-day Lamego in Portugal, at around the year 104 AD, Diocles began his career in chariot racing, making a small name for himself, and moved to Rome in 122 AD. 2 years later, he would win his first race. He would eventually participate in a total of 4,257 races, winning 1,462 of them, and placed in an additional 1,438 races, mostly in second place. Now, I don't know exactly how impressive that is. I'm not exactly familiar with chariot racing, but given the fact the sport itself was an extremely dangerous one, coupled with the high difficulty in maintaining such a degree of consistency as that comes in any sport, Diocles' record is probably pretty impressive. Though it is also said he was likely not necessarily the best charioteer, due to only winning about a third of his races. It didn't matter though, because the reason why he was so popular had to do with his style. Diocles would frequently trail behind the leader in most races, only to make a dash for first in the last lap of the race, ensuring drama until the very end. Diocles would have a career spanning 24 years, longer than usual for most charioteers, representing 3 of the 4 famous racing stables. Those are the Reds, Whites, Blues and Greens, by the way, being most commonly associated with the Reds for spending 15 years of his career there, after 6 years in the Whites and 3 years in the Greens. Also, you may think getting yourself a statue built is only reserved for the top athletes of today, but Diocles does actually have a statue built in his birth city. Throughout his long and impressive career, Diocles earned a total of 35,863,120 sesterces. How much money is this exactly? Well, it's a lot of money. Given one needed a minimum of 1 million sesterces in order to qualify for the Senate, Diocles would have been considered ridiculously rich by Roman standards. In fact, assuming he didn't blow his cash away, he'd be easily in the top 20 of the richest men in Rome, considering Pliny the Younger had a fortune valued at 20 million sesterces, and he was in that top 20. But how much is 35 million sesterces exactly? Was he really wealthier than the top athletes of the modern age? Well, one article estimates his earnings are equivalent to over $15 billion, which would easily put him as the highest paid athlete of all time, well above any athlete of the modern age. However, under scrutiny, this estimation is questionable at best. You see, this estimation was derived from an extrapolation. Given his earnings were enough money to pay the entire Roman army for 2 months, the article then compared this amount to the amount of money necessary to pay the wages of the American armed forces for the same period. There is also an estimation which says his earnings could feed the entire population of Rome for an entire year. You're probably seeing all the problems that come with making these assumptions. The Roman army isn't the American armed forces. The city of Rome isn't Washington, D.C. And the Roman Empire isn't the United States of America. Both are vastly different countries with a very different economy. The Roman Empire, as romanticized as it is, would unquestionably be considered a third world country. Even just going by the assumption that a horse would be the equivalent of a modern car, 35 million sesterces would be equivalent to, roughly, $350 million. But considering it is far more difficult to get yourself a horse in the Roman Empire than to buy a car in the modern era, the assumption necessary in order to reach this conclusion is likely very wrong. The point is, calculating ancient wealth using modern-day currency isn't particularly reliable, as it all gets lost in the translation. Even if they were rich by their own standards, the richest man in Rome did not live a better life than your run-of-the-mill millionaire. Hell, I'd even bet plenty of people in the middle class have a better lifestyle. So, long story short, Gaius Appuleius Diocles was a pretty rich guy for his day. Was he wealthier than the top modern-day athletes you see? Probably not. And hope you enjoyed this little video. Leave a like, comment, and if you're not subscribed, then please do so. I'd really appreciate it. This was Spectrum, and I'll see you around.